Let's try and place the transistor on the top part. Ensure the flat surface faces you, so you can see that it displays the gain. So this one is a functional transistor, and it is specifically an NPN. If we try to place it at the bottom, you'll realize it doesn't give us any reading. It is at 0, meaning that this is not a PNP transistor. So I'll take the second one and try the same. Just fix it over there. So likewise, this one is not a PNP, so that means it should be an NPN. Sorry, it should be NPN. So you can see we have the gain, which is around 168. So that is how you can test whether your transistor is working or not. Secondly, I would like to show you how to also measure the size, especially the capacitance of these very small capacitors. So by use of your multimeter, I'll switch it off. Then I turn to microfarads. So let's begin with the 2 microfarad and see whether it will display the capacitance of this particular capacitor here. So when you place it at 2 microfarad, you can see that it's going to be 0.075. So it is a very small capacitor. You can see I've placed it here at the CX. If you have this type of digital multimeter, you set the digital multimeter at 2 microfarad, then it will give you that. If I try to place it at 20 nanofarads, I have a smaller one. So if I place the smaller one here, we'll see whether it's going to give us. So you can see that it displays 0.69. Of course, it will be fluctuating. Let's try it again. So 0.69, that is the capacitance of this very small capacitor here. Here it is. So that's how you can test the capacitance of these small capacitors, whereby most of the times it is the size is not indicated, unlike the others which are usually a bit bigger, like this one here on our control board. It will always display, they will always indicate the microfarad. It's here. The microfarad will always be indicated in that capacitor. The same case applies to this one. So these ones we don't really have to measure the capacitance because you can always find it. So this is how you can be able to measure the capacitance of this type of capacitor. So that's how to do it using your digital multimeter. You set it. If it's this size, you can set it as from 2 microfarad. Get this capacitance. But if you look at this one, you'll realize that between the two, this is smaller. It is smaller than the first one. That is why we set it at the lowest, which is 20 nanofarads, and then it gave us the capacitance of this particular capacitor. So anytime you're working with the air conditioners, especially the indoor units, you'll always find, and even on the outdoor unit, you'll always find a control board with all these electrical components, which we have to know their functions and where we're supposed to place them, what is the purpose of those components. So we can see the same type of capacitors are here, the brown ones. There are several. So that's how you can measure the capacitance of that type, of this type of a capacitor. So I also have diodes here, which you're also going to do the same thing. instead of soldering it on the board, you can first of all test whether it's working or not. So just a minute, we need to ensure that it gets into the, yeah, inside there, so we can realize that it's blinking. So that's also another way you can check whether these diodes, the light emitting diodes, are working or not before you fix them on the boards. So just set your digital multimeter at the lowest, or either of the microfarads that are lower than 200, then you can be able to see whether it's producing some light or not. So I'll also do the same with the second one. Here is the second one. The longer leg should go first and then the shorter one below. So you can see it is also blinking, meaning that it's working, it's functional. We can be able to just solder it on our control boards and everything will be fine. So that's how you can use your digital multimeter to test or to check whether these light emitting diodes are working or not. And finally, the last one, I'll show you how to test the diode using your digital multimeter. So if you look at this diode, we have two parts on the diode. We have the anode and the cathode. So the black part is usually our positive part. This that looks like a bit of gray is usually our negative side. So I would like to use the multimeter. So you set your multimeter, then so you can see it gives us some resistance which will be fluctuating, but that's how you can tell that you are measuring it or you're testing it the correct way. So I've used the red probe on the positive side and the black probe, which is from the common, on the negative side, and that's when it works or displays the resistance. But if I use it the other way, if you use it the opposite way, it's not going to display anything. Thank you.